What's good, family? So mash the like button and subscribe. Wow! As you might have seen by the title, today your man's the YB received. Yeah? What he did receive is a wiretap, an intercepted message from GCHQ, no doubt. One of my dons deep inside GCHQ reached out to me this morning and said, YB, we've got a bite, we've got a hit on our team Deontay Wilder phone line, no doubt. And essentially, like I see in the title, I got some explosive comments out of Team Wilder they've made, essentially confessing their deepest fears of Dillian Whyte. And essentially, we now know why Deontay Wilder has flat out refused to even dream, even have nightmares of Dillian Whyte. Yeah? What we now know is Deontay Wilder is so shook he can't even have nightmares of Dillian. Do you understand that? He's just too shook. Yeah? He'd be on that. No doubt. Anyway, so let's get to the comments then. Like I told you, one of my dons at GCHQ pinged me this morning and said, listen YB, yeah? The phone line was going, our Deontay Wilder tap was going off this morning, no doubt. And these were the comments Team Deontay Wilder was making on Dillian Whyte. Check this out, yeah? No doubt. Team Deontay Wilder said, Whyte, in my opinion, is more dangerous than Anthony Joshua because he's more deceiving. His height, Dillian Whyte's height, appears shorter than his actual height in reality. And his best and hardest punch really is his left jab and left hook. His arms are longer than they appear, and they hang down almost to his knees. It's not the only thing. Yeah, that's what I'm just saying what I've heard. No jokes, but listen. So when you think you're out of range of his height, it's tricky because you're still in arm's reach of him because of his long third arm length. And his punch power comes from his bull-like strength. Which is mad. Yeah? What have I told you before? What have I told you? Deontay Wilder is a bottom to Dillian Whyte. So what you man have really got to read between the lines here, between some of these references. Well, you thought that this intercepted wiretap, you think that Team Deontay Wilder are using words like bull for no reason. Are you joking? Yeah? Dillian Whyte is a bull. He's a top bull to Deontay Wilder. That's what it is. It's not me. It's not you. It's not anyone else. You man, all you Deontay Wilder fans can be super duper mad. But the facts are the facts. This right here is a GCHQ intercept. No doubt. Yeah? If you're mad at, don't be mad. Oh, YB. Why? This is what you're doing. It's unconstitutional. Listen, it's what it is. Yeah? Don't shoot the messenger here. It's your man's fault. If your man wants to be a chatty patty on the phones, that's on your man. Tell your man to stop being chatty patty on the lines. On some John Gotti thing. Too much talking. Keep your mouth shut. How about that? Yeah? Then you won't get caught lacking by the YB. Anyway, I haven't finished. Where was I? You know what? Let's run through this quick time. Dillian Whyte, in my opinion, is better than AJ because he's more deceiving. His height appears shorter than his actual height in reality. And his hardest punch is his left hook and left jab. His arms are longer than they appear, and they hang down almost to his knees. So when you think you're out of range of his height, it's tricky because you're still in arm's reach of him because of his long arm length. And his power comes from his bull-like strength, not from the correction of his punches. Whyte is just dangerous for anyone, but what makes him vulnerable for Deontay is his very front foot heavy. There we go then. So you heard there. Obviously, at the end there, Team Deontay Wilder, they're always going to put some spin on it, ain't they? Oh, but he's heavy on the front foot. Listen, don't worry about heavy on the front foot. Unfortunately for you man have given the game away. You're shook, no doubt. 100% shook. I'm not being funny here, but anyone Bearing in mind, we've all seen AJ smoke the boots off of Dillian Whyte. So the fact that AJ smoked Dillian Whyte's boots, and even so, you've got your man's Deontay Wilder crying about how shook they are of Dillian Whyte and how Dillian Whyte's better than and more dangerous than AJ. That just shows you. I'm not sure what's gone on here. I'm trying to work out. For me, it's quite confusing. I can't. Well, tell a lie. Who knows? Maybe in old times they was shook of AJ more. From what I'm hearing now, from some other earlier intercepts of Wilder's phone lines, we did learn that it's more recently, in more recent months, this is a new point of view from Team Deontay Wilder. In as much as we've just heard how Team Deontay Wilder now believe Dillian Whyte is more dangerous, or is more, from their point of view, Team Deontay Wilder are more scary of Dillian Whyte than they are AJ. That wasn't the case until the last few months. Why? Well, what do we know? As I've been telling you, man, for the last God knows how long. Ever since AJ lost to Ruiz the first time. All of the heavyweight scene are licking their chops watching AJ fight. Why? Because he's scary. He running. He dancing around the place. And that ain't turning no one off. So now you got bottoms like Deontay Wilder, who's a certified bottom, yeah, 100%. But he's now moving on, because to be fair to Dillian Whyte, yeah, fair play to him. He got smoked by Povetkin. He has close to no chin. That's a fact. There's no doubt about that. Yeah, you can. I like Dillian, but I like his attitude. I wish we could take Dillian Whyte's attitude and put it in AJ's frame, because AJ's got all the ability, all the hardware, but Dillian, he's resilient. Because what do we know? Dillian literally got smoked against Povetkin. Povetkin was so shot as well. Despite Povetkin having no gas left, completely shot, he got clipped here. But guess what? He came straight back and he went to push Povetkin's wig in. Do you understand that? If anyone should have been super duper scary, who should it have been? Dillian Whyte. But he wasn't, because his mentality was there. AJ, on the other hand, he didn't even get smoked. AJ wasn't unconscious. But even so, he goes in there and he's super scary and he's running around the place. Dillian Whyte is how he's supposed to come back, in my opinion. Dillian Whyte was vicious and angry about it. He had a chip on his shoulder. How dare you Povetkin, even dream of doing what you did to me? And he went in there and avenged that. AJ hasn't avenged nothing. AJ's gone in there and he's let that haunt him. That's a big, in my opinion, there's still a dark cloud hanging over AJ. Dillian, he's cloud free, because he went, you know what I'm saying? He cleansed his demons. If Dillian Whyte had gone in there with Povetkin yet and thought, oh, you know what? Oh, it's only going to... And to be fair, this was my analysis. My analysis, yeah, before the Povetkin rematch was, you know what? Dillian better be careful, because it's only going to take one. We know that Povetkin was shot to bits and super finished, and he still caught him with only one shot, and he went out cold. He's got to be careful. So despite that being relatively rational analysis, yeah, guess what? Dillian Whyte said, F the analysis. I'm getting my get back. I don't care if my chin is wafer thin. I'm getting stuck in. And that's why I have to respect Dillian to the highest degree. And that's why I even said after the fight, Dillian Whyte is exhibiting a Hall of Fame level mentality. Unfortunately, at the moment, in my opinion, AJ is not. Because Dillian had every excuse to go in there and change himself. I can't afford to get hit even once. But he didn't. He doubled down on himself, and he went in there and got his get back. Have to respect that. AJ didn't double down on himself. AJ, I better change, because I don't believe in myself enough. I don't believe I can beat him how I've been beating everyone else. This guy's too good for me, essentially. That's what AJ conceded. I'm sorry, it's the truth. AJ conceded he couldn't beat Andy Ruiz in that particular way. Essentially, which means that AJ believes Andy Ruiz is better than him at that. So, it is what it is. The reason that's relevant to these Deontay Wilder wiretaps is that this explains what's gone on here. Yeah, in as much as, do you believe, 2-3 years ago, do you believe Deontay Wilder would sit there and tell you that he thinks Dillian Whyte is more dangerous than AJ? No, he wouldn't. And we know that for a fact because, well, we don't know it for a fact, but we can, it's implied in as much as, guess what? AJ offered him, when AJ was at his prime, or at his most dangerous, Deontay Wilder was offered $120 million. He didn't want no parts of that. He didn't even want to entertain negotiations. Do you remember? AJ was offering $120 million, and Deontay Wilder would say things like, "Oh man, you know what, it's not even about the money. It's about, oh man, it's about the respect, and he's so disrespectful." They weren't even interested in no money. At that time, though, around the same time, Dillian Whyte came in the picture, and Deontay Wilder was, again, he didn't accept the fight, but he was kind of like, "Yeah, I'll do it for 8. My point is, Deontay Wilder said he'd do it for 8 against Dillian. Well, he wouldn't do it for 150 against AJ at that point in time. But now, from what they're saying, from what these wiretaps confirm, from what this GCHQ intercept confirms, is that that's now changed now. They don't want to fight Dillian. They believe Dillian's more dangerous. Now, you could argue, well, YB, this could just be words, but what I put to you is that where's the benefit in that, if that makes sense? From their point of view, why would they suddenly, out of nowhere, say Dillian Whyte is more dangerous and more scary for them? And how does that... I just don't see the benefit of that. If anything, from their point of view, or put it this way, a particular opinion, I would completely discount is a typical cliche rhetoric, in as much as I would expect I'd expect Deontay Wilder to say things like, "Oh, they're both bums." Yeah? And that's the kind of comment we can just say, you know what, that's just boxing talk. But the fact he's gone out there to actually say, no, Dillian Whyte's tougher stylistically and more dangerous, and not only make them comments, but also break it down in terms of his style, in terms of him being more deceiving, in terms of him being more sneaky. But really, that for me is just hot air, truth be known. The actual truth is that what I've just explained. And I warned AJ about this, to be fair. I warned him. It's a bit like Mike Tyson. Once Mike Tyson got beat, all of his fights, all of a sudden, people was finding things in themselves to turn up, if that makes sense. The minute you allow that aura to disappear, your fights end up 10 times as hard, because everyone thinks, you know what, I'm going to turn up and have a go, because you never know if I'm going to get lucky at Buster Douglas or at Andy Ruiz. The only way you nip that in the bud is if you nip it in the bud. For example, when Dillian Whyte lost against Povetkin, everyone was thinking, myself included, you know what, let's just stick one on his chin and see what happens. But guess what? Dillian came back in, and how well did that "let's just put one on his chin" work for Povetkin in the rematch? Oops. How well did "let's just put one on his whiskers and see how it plays out"? How did that work for Povetkin in the second fight? Oops. It didn't. So at least the fact Dillian doubled down on himself, all that people thinking they're just going to turn up and stick one on, people are at least now going to think twice about that. Whereas AJ, the fact he didn't double down against Andy Ruiz, he hasn't doubled down against Pulev. Every fight that goes by AJ distanced himself from his old self. People are going to be rock hard. I've already told you, I've already broken exclusive news from one of my dons inside Usyk's camp. Usyk and Team Usyk are stroking themselves off at the foot of AJ. Yeah? That's just a fact. So I'm telling you what it is. Team Usyk are stroking themselves off watching AJ's recent tapes and his new training tapes of him in there with 120-pound men, and he's running around the place, and the 120-pound men are walking him down, and he's just in there super scary. I'm telling you now, it's a fact. Your Team Usyk have stroke-off sessions, circle jerk sessions. They put a big old tape, they put the tape on, they put AJ versus Pulev on, and they all sit there on the TV just stroking themselves off to it. So, IB, this, that, the other. I'm telling you what it is. Yeah? If you don't like it, turn it off. Because you, man, don't like the truth. I'm telling you. No doubt. 100% confirmed. That's what is happening. But anyway, back to this Deontay Wilder thing. Listen. We now know bottom line is Deontay Wilder is super shook of Dillian Whyte. But I do respect them to an extent. I know obviously this was a wiretap and they didn't expect this to be intercepted. But nonetheless, I respect them in as much as they are, from what I'm hearing, they are actually appearing to want some more smoke. Now I've got another video coming soon, but Deontay Wilder has actually said that he wants to fight AJ next. But again, these are all words now. But at least we're kind of getting a bit deeper. I do actually think this this Deontay Wilder loss to Tyson Fury, it's only going to be beneficial. I actually think that, I don't know. Who knows? The reason I get that feeling is because, guess what? Deontay Wilder could easily be running from Tyson Fury, given the whooping he got. He could easily be, but the fact he took Fury to court and whatever else, he wants this fight. Obviously, if he gets whooped again by Fury, then it don't matter, does it, what Wilder wants? But from a unification point of view, if Wilder is to win, I do get the feeling, and you know what, I think I'm going to give him one more chance, because he's at least proven to me that at least it's not a bottom like Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury is an absolute bottom. The bottom of all the bottoms. Yeah? Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the biggest bottom of them all? Tyson Fury. That's just what it is. He's a bottom. Because he's the one who's running from everyone right now. It's a fact. And from what I'm hearing, Fury going to pull out in October. And hopefully, I just pray, but I can't lie to you, man. I'm not hearing great news. I'm hearing that the WBC is going to stand pat and not do anything. But we've all got to pray that Fury drops out again and they immediately put on Wilder and Dillian Whyte for December or early January. That's what we've got to pray for. Although we've heard the tapes today, or we've seen the evidence from the tapes, is Deontay Wilder really going to want to face Dillian Whyte, given that he finds him the most difficult fight? Let's not forget this. I think it's encouraging that they're even discussing Dillian Whyte, because before it was, oh man, he's a peasant, and fee fi fo fum, I smell the blood of all that kind of goofy stuff. That's what he was giving it. He's a peasant, I don't talk to peasants, but at least now, ever since, and to be fair, it might be the case that ever since Fury knocked Wilder's wig for him, Wilder was never, let's not forget this, Wilder was a slow looking ass, super slow. Maybe there's been cases yet that dopey dons, have you never heard of that? There's been some stories before where men have been average people, they've had a car crash or they've fell down some stairs and knocked their head and they turn into savants. I swear down, they turn into some next savant things. So maybe, obviously Wilder's never going to be a savant, but maybe he went from being super slow, got knocked on his head, yeah? He got the, what's it called? he got the egg weight leapt off his head, and ever since then, maybe a few, not again, it's not going to be a savant, but maybe a few IQ points got knocked in there as well. Yeah, along with the egg weight. Listen, what we know is now, it wasn't just the egg weight that knocked him on his head. A few IQ points. Tyson Fury was extremely, what's the word? I don't know what it was, but either way, listen. Tyson Fury was whatever it was, and he ended up knocking a few IQ points along with the egg weight. So really, Deontay Wilder should be grateful, because at least Fury didn't just knock the egg weight on your head. He used the egg weight and some IQ points he knocked you with. Yeah? But listen. You know what? I don't even want to talk about Deontay Wilder and Dillian. I just pray that we just crack on now. Let's start cutting through some of these fights. I'm not being funny. How long have we been sitting here talking about things? Oh, Dillian versus Wilder, and Wilder versus Dillian, and Fury versus Dillian, and all. How long have we been doing that for? How long? And how many of them have we seen? For me, yeah, the top fighters are Dillian, Fury, Wilder, and AJ. How many of them we're really seeing? And put it this way, the facts are, Wilder versus Fury don't count, in my opinion. And the crazy thing is, even if you was to count it, we ain't even getting that, are we? That's been dragging on for 6 months. God knows how long else. We can't even get the ones we don't want. No one wants to see Fury and Wilder. We can't even get that. That's how mad the boxing situation is right now. We can't even get the ones we don't want. Wow, it's down bad. Anyway, listen. You've heard there from Team Deontay Wilder Wiretap. They super duper scary of the bull. Yeah? And this is, again, you can just tell how scary Team Deontay Wilder are of Dillian Whyte because of the particular words they use. They use words like bull. Yeah? They use words like the length of his third arm. You understand? That there is what you call top talk. If someone's a bull, if someone's got a long third arm, guess what? You best believe. And I can't even knock Deontay Wilder because if I was a bottom, and there was some next bull top with a super long third arm, I'd be scared too. Yeah, but obviously, Deontay Wilder, to be fair to us, us dons, we're straight, if that makes sense. So it's acceptable for me as a straight don, not to be too keen on some next bull with a big, long, strong third arm. However, Deontay Wilder, what do we know about Deontay Wilder? Deontay Wilder said that he wants to be pregnant and all these other things. So listen, Deontay Wilder has assimilated. We see him twerking, we see him putting out interviews saying he wants someone to impregnate him. So from his point of view, he should be embracing it. Yeah? Don't be scared, Deontay. Don't be scared of the long third arm. Don't be scared of the bull and his long third arm. Because guess what? That's what you wanted. You said you want to be pregnant. Listen, I told you before. Dillian Whyte is fixing to split your cheeks for you. And look, I'm sure if you ask nicely, he'll give you a good load as well. Maybe 9 months later, I'm sure he can do you right. Yeah, he can be your daddy, no doubt. Because the way you be throwing it back in them twerking videos, you be looking for a daddy. 100% confirmed. No doubt.